Reactive training systems.
So can you describe a little bit more, in what ways do you use velocity kind of in your day-to-day that someone might not be familiar with?
Yeah, so lots of different ways. I think one big problem with velocity-based training is people think of it as a universal system. There's the speed zones, speed strength, starting strength, strength speed, which are bullshit, to be honest. Like they don't work. They don't apply to everyone, especially in powerlifting where you can lift a sumo deadlift at, 0.06 meters per second. It's so slow and it's such a grind that you're never going to move that fast in absolute terms. What we're looking for is that same weight to move slightly faster over time. And so that's another way we can sort of track progress. So I'll do that in my own training where I'll compare today's numbers to my 30-day average for that load and exercise. So I'm doing a block at the moment with safety bar squats. So I'll do my safety bar squat and I'll compare the warm-up sets, so 60, 100, 120. I'll compare them to those same weights I did in the past for best rep velocity. And so my best rep velocity today on 100 might be 0.7 meters per second, just to pick a number. Last week it was 0.68. So I'm good. Today is a high readiness day. That was an easier set objectively than last time because I moved it faster. So therefore I'm probably in a good place to hit the same loads, add an extra rep, or make those progressions that are a part of my plan. So it's just another way to sort of gauge how I am on a daily basis. And I think that idea of using it as a readiness tool to add to RPE. So you do your RPEs, oh, that was a little tougher than normal. It's an 8 or it's an 8.5 and it should be a little lower. Then you can look at the velocity data to go with it and go, yeah, that kind of backs up what I'm feeling. And so that sort of matches what I'm doing, and vice versa. I'm feeling really good today. Those RPEs are lower than expected. That might, hang on, maybe I'm, just a little bit crazy today. Maybe I've had too many coffees, something's going on. You can look at the velocity and go, no, the velocities are way up. You're moving that bar way faster than you normally do, or that you did last week or over the last month. So yes, that is appropriate that those RPEs are lower. So therefore we're in a good day. Today's a day to add 5 kilos to the bar, not just 2.5, or go, plus 10 instead of plus 5. So it can help sort of give athletes confidence that their subjective assessments are correct, or do the opposite. It can calibrate those. So I'm not super good at my RPE stuff. Still learning the ropes with that at the moment. And so I use RPE to calibrate that, velocity rather, to calibrate my RPEs. So, maybe it was an 8. And I look at the velocity and go, no, Jacob, that was a 7. There was so much left in the tank on that. You're not pushing hard enough. And because I tend to under push my lower body stuff, particularly my squats. So I'll do it and I'll go, oh, that's an 8, 8.5. Look at the velocity and go, no, compared to my own contextual velocity, I think that's the important thing, not compared to some standard, just compared to my own numbers on that load over time. Actually, no, it's pretty good. Normally it's a 0.5, I'm 0.52 today, good meters per second. Happy days. Let's go. You can go to that normal weight you're going to. Don't cut yourself short because you're a little timid on this given exercise. And then on the bench, it's the opposite. I'll push too hard on those things. It's like, no, you got a lot closer to failure than you thought on that set. So you probably only had 1 rep in the tank. So maybe adjust accordingly.
So for you, if there's a mismatch between RPE and velocity, then you lean more heavily on.
It can go both ways. I think you could do, you get your RPE number and then you get your velocity number and you take the middle. So one says 7, one says 8, call it 7.5. I think if you're going to be, I don't actually compete in powerlifting myself. So I'd sort of more coach in that space and just sort of do it for fun. But if you're going to be doing it from a competition point of view and going through sort of, the RTS model with the development blocks after development blocks, I think learning really good RPEs and relying on your RPEs is probably more important. But using velocity at times to calibrate things is really valuable, I think, there. So I would probably more likely rely on the RPEs, although for myself, I'll flip a little bit. So how's a good way to explain this? I suppose on, for example, if you take the bench, for example, I'll rely more on the velocities and the RPEs because I just don't trust myself to call high numbers when they are in fact high. And then on squat, I'll do the opposite. I'll rely more on the velocity numbers the RPE numbers, because I know that I'm not as good at that and I need to work on grinding through heavier stuff. So I'll use that and sort of calibrate the two together.
Yeah. I do like kind of the learning style approach. And I think a lot of times people can get hung up on kind of choosing one method or the other. This method is better than that method, but like you're pointing out, like it can be contextual and there's strengths and weaknesses here. And not just that, but like risks and potential rewards. So like the risk of going too heavy is usually a little bit more costly than the risk of going a little bit too light. So if you factor that into, how you plan, then that seems like that could be beneficial. It also sounds like, as we talk about this, that using velocity is going to rely on having a pretty decent information system. Like you're talking about needing a velocity profile for each lift and lifter, and looking at those velocities pretty highly contextually. So, do you think that could potentially be a hurdle for people to get started?
Yeah. I think that's why things like the velocity zones have become so popular, is because you can just go, there's a fixed value, hit the fixed value, and that's it. But that just doesn't work across a broad spectrum of limb lengths, heights, males, females, different strength levels, different lifting variations. So going a wider stance, a narrower stance, all those things will influence what your specific velocity is. So to really get it to work for you, I think going contextually is much more valuable. So me compared to myself, you compared to yourself on those loads and those exercises based on the way you do it. But like you mentioned, there's a massive hurdle in that. That means you have to save that data somewhere. And so for you to be able to compare yourself to your velocity PR at a 200 kilo deadlift, you need to have that velocity PR stored somewhere. So I've created a velocity logbook on my website, vbtcoach.com, that you can use. You just go bench, date, bench, 100 kilos, velocity, maybe best rep and last rep if you want it, because they're both valuable numbers. You can add RP in there as well, and then it can track your velocity over time. And so then you can create a 30-day or a 90-day average out of that and compare yourself to those averages. But yeah, it's another spreadsheet. It's another data point that you have to log. It's another thing. So if you're doing load, reps, RPE, and then that's giving you a predicted daily max, and then you've got to log best rep velocity, maybe percentage fatigue as well. So from the best rep to the last rep of a set, you want to see that velocity drop off or decay. Maybe last rep velocity, maybe range of motion. Like the numbers start to really add up, and there's a lot of different pieces that you got to add in. That even in a powerlifting setting, you got 5 minutes of rest, you might not get them all written down in that time. So we want to, part of metric is we'll get to add these features in as well. So we'll be adding in those data storing features into the app automatically. So that'll be done for you. So as you set, you press stop on the recording, it'll show you that number. Doesn't currently, but in the future, that's what it'll do. So you don't have to log that. So it'll be part of the feature set. I think that will really take VBT to the next level, because if it can be done automatically for you, you'll get that there right away.
Hey, let me tell you something that I know about you. Your lifting is important to you. It's probably one of your biggest priorities. And for people like us, nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you set a new PR. That feeling of being the best that you've ever been, of doing something that you've never done before. This is what we're all after, and it's also what RTS specializes in. Getting you the absolute best program possible so that you can hit new PRs and reach your goals. We call it radically individualized training, and we're really good at it. Whether we need to account for busy schedules or equipment limitations, or precisely turn the dials and get the details of the program just right, we have the tools and the experience to guide your lifting to the next level. To us, coaching is all about leadership, relationship, and creative problem solving. A coach should be poised to help you make tough decisions about training and competing so that you can continually grow in your development. And of course, a coach should be a first-rate problem solver, especially when it comes to your training, technique, and strategy. Now, all this has to be built off of a really strong, professional coaching relationship that emphasizes trust and respect. Additionally, RTS coaches are not on an island. We have a strong network of professionals to reach out to, so if you find yourself in need of some specific expertise, say in the realm of nutrition or injury management or sports psychology, there's a deep expertise available there too. For more information, go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on coaching. That's store.reactivetrainingsystems.com, then click on coaching. Hope to see you on the team soon.